And here's the wild part. It's one you might still find in your pocket change today. I'm talking about the 2016 Mint Mark Theodore Roosevelt quarter dollar, a coin that's quietly shocking the collecting world and turning ordinary people into millionaires overnight. Now, imagine this. A man in Minnesota is rolling up his quarters to buy coffee. He notices one coin that just looks different. The shine isn't the same. The details feel sharper, deeper, almost alive. So instead of spending it, he tucks it away. Weeks later, after a bit of research, he finds out what he's holding is no ordinary quarter. It's one of the rarest modern minting miracles ever struck by the U.S. Mint. That single coin, the 2016 Theodore Roosevelt quarter, is now valued at up to $1.1 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers rushed to confirm it. And what they discovered about this coin's origin still sends chills down the spine of anyone who loves American history and hidden treasures. You see, 2016 was a special year in the America the Beautiful Quarter series, the year the Mint honored Theodore Roosevelt and his legendary ride through the Dakota Badlands. But somewhere between design perfection and minting precision, something went wrong. Or maybe, just maybe, something went incredibly right that a small batch of coins left the Philadelphia Mint with an extraordinary anomaly. Some say it was a dime misalignment. Others whisper about a double strike, a subtle doubling in Roosevelt's name or the horse's mane. Whatever the cause, the result was a breathtaking coin that looked slightly off, yet impossibly beautiful. But here's where the story takes a sharp turn. The Mint never officially confirmed how many of these error coins were released. Some experts believe fewer than a dozen exist. Others claim hundreds could still be out there, tucked inside old jars, forgotten coffee cans, or buried in change drawers waiting to be discovered. And this is what makes it so thrilling. These coins weren't discovered right away. Years passed before collectors began noticing something special about a handful of 2016 quarters. Under magnification, certain coins revealed a faint doubling on Roosevelt's face and lettering. A minting mishap that transformed a 25-cent coin into a $1 million marvel. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these error coins was authenticated, graded, and auctioned. The final bid? Just over $1.1 million. A coin most people wouldn't look at twice had suddenly become a collector's crown jewel. Imagine the excitement. The phone lines buzzing between dealers, collectors driving hundreds of miles to check local banks, coin rolls being torn open in living rooms across the country. All because one lucky person paid attention to the details the rest of us miss every single day. And this isn't just about luck. It's about awareness, about knowing what to look for when you hold history in your hand. You see, the 2016 Theodore Roosevelt quarter has a few telltale signs that separate it from the millions of ordinary ones. Start by looking closely at Roosevelt's face. Some of the valuable varieties show a faint doubling along his chin or the brim of his hat. On the reverse side, the words Theodore Roosevelt National Park may show slightly thicker letters, a tiny imperfection that signals a possible double die error. But here's the detail most people miss. The mint mark itself, that small P on the front. On the rare $1 million version, the mint mark can appear slightly off-center or even distorted, almost as if it's leaning. That's the kind of subtle sign that can mean the difference between a regular quarter and a life-changing find. Dealers are now scouring rolls, hoping to find more examples before the public catches on. Every week, online forums light up with stories of people discovering unusual 2016 quarters and wondering if they've just struck gold. One man in Florida shared his story. He found his in a grocery store parking lot. Another collector says he found one mixed in with arcade tokens. And in every case, that moment of realization hits like lightning. You look down at your hand and realize you're holding a fortune, but here's where it gets really interesting. Experts say these coins are still out there because the Mint distributed millions of 2016 quarters nationwide. That means they're sitting in pockets, banks, cash registers, vending machines, and even in the coin tray of your car right now. Just think about it. One of those quarters could be worth $1.1 million. And the person who finds it, they'll go down in coin collecting history. Now, let's take a step back for a moment. Theodore Roosevelt wasn't just another face on a coin. He was a president who redefined what America stood for: adventure, courage, and the drive to protect what mattered most. The mint chose him for this coin because of his connection to nature and his powerful vision for the country. So it's almost poetic that his coin, of all coins, would turn into a symbol of discovery and reward. This is what makes collecting so addictive. It's not just about the money. Though, let's be honest, $1 million doesn't hurt. It's about the chase, the thrill of uncovering something the world forgot. It's about holding a piece of history that tells a story no one else has heard. And if you're watching this right now, you already know these moments are real. They're happening every day. People are finding rare quarters in their change and walking away with small fortunes. Here's how to know if your 2016 P. Theodore Roosevelt quarter could be worth a fortune. Grab a magnifying glass or your phone's zoom camera. Look at the mint mark. Is the P perfectly placed, or does it look just a little off? Then, check Roosevelt's face and hat. Look for doubling, especially around his nose or chin. Flip it over. The lettering should be crisp. If it looks doubled or thicker than normal, you might be holding something extraordinary. Next, inspect the overall strike. The valuable versions often have deeper relief. The details of the horse and rider look bolder, almost sculpted. The luster might also be unusual, a mirror-like shine that stands out compared to ordinary coins. And remember, don't clean it. Don't polish it. Leave it exactly as it is. A single scratch can erase thousands of dollars in value. If you think you found one, take it to a professional coin dealer or submit it to a grading service like PCGS or NGC. The authentication process is what transforms an interesting find into a verified treasure. Collectors are still talking about that first $1 million auction. It wasn't just a sale, it was a wake-up call. A reminder that modern coins, even those from the 2000s, can hold secrets just as valuable as any ancient gold piece. And maybe that's the beauty of it all. A coin made for everyday use, one meant to pass quietly through countless hands, has instead become a symbol of hope for collectors everywhere. The next time you're counting your change, don't rush. Don't overlook that 2016 P. Roosevelt quarter, because you never know when you might be holding history, fortune, and legacy all in one hand. Collectors were shocked when this story first broke. Dealers were speechless. And the man who sold that coin for over $1 million? He said something that still gives me chills. He said, "It was sitting in my kitchen drawer for years. I almost spent it on a soda." So maybe it's time to check your own drawer, your piggy bank, that old coin jar in the garage. Because somewhere in America, another 2016 P. Theodore Roosevelt quarter is waiting to be found. It's a 1999 P. Connecticut quarter, a coin you've probably held in your hand dozens of times without realizing it could change your life forever. Now, before you brush this off as another collector's myth, listen closely. Because what I'm about to share isn't just a story about a coin. It's a story about luck, history, and the hidden treasures still circulating in plain sight. In 1999, the U.S. Mint launched the 50-state quarters program, one of the most ambitious projects in American coin history. Each state got its own design, and Connecticut's featured the legendary charter oak tree, a symbol of defiance and independence. Millions of these quarters were minted, but buried among those ordinary coins was a microscopic mistake, a tiny imperfection that turned one into a seven-figure masterpiece. It started with a simple pocket find. A man in Hartford, Connecticut, pulled out a few coins to pay for his morning coffee. Something about one quarter caught his eye. The shine looked different, almost mirrored, like it had been polished by hand. He didn't think much of it until later that night. Under the kitchen light, he noticed something strange. The details were razor-sharp, the background deep and glossy. What he had in his hand wasn't just any quarter. It was a rare proof-like 1999 P. Connecticut quarter struck with an experimental die. He brought it to a local dealer, expecting maybe $20 for the odd shine. But the dealer froze. He called in another appraiser, then another. Within a week, the coin was authenticated as a one-of-a-kind minting error, struck on a planchet intended for a different composition, giving it a stunning finish and doubling its rarity. The final auction price? Over $1 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers couldn't believe it. The idea that a modern quarter, just a few decades old, could reach such astronomical value shook the numismatic world to its core. And that's when the hunt began. People all across the country started digging through jars, pockets, and glove compartments, hunting for 1999 P. Connecticut quarters. You'd see folks in line at grocery stores flipping quarters under the light, trying to catch that same mirrored gleam. Coin forums lit up overnight. Could this be another one? One user posted, showing a coin that looked almost identical, but it wasn't. Because there's a secret detail hidden right under the Charter Oak that separates the $1 million Connecticut quarter from the rest. You see, the valuable version has a faint, almost ghost-like doubling in the text Connecticut in the year 1788. It's not your typical double die. It's a rare form of misalignment caused by the die striking the planchet at a microscopic angle. Most people miss it entirely. But under magnification, that tiny shadow effect gives it away. But that's not all. The edges of this coin tell another story. Instead of the usual crisp reeded edges, some of these rare examples show a slight flattening, a result of pressure inconsistencies during the minting process. That detail alone can mean the difference between a 25-cent coin and one worth hundreds of thousands. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Just months after that $1 million sale, another Connecticut quarter surfaced, this time found in an old dresser drawer by a retired factory worker in Maine. His daughter almost spent it at a gas station before noticing the unusual luster. That coin ended up fetching $1.2 million at auction, breaking records for a state quarter. And here's the chilling part. Experts believe there may still be more out there. The U.S. Mint confirmed that during the early production of the 1999 P quarters, a small batch of experimental planchets was mistakenly used in Philadelphia. These planchets were of a slightly different composition, resulting in a reflective surface unlike the standard copper-nickel blend. Only a handful made it into circulation before the error was caught. Those few that did are now considered holy grails of modern coinage. Imagine that. A quarter that once bought you a gumball could now buy you a house. It's the kind of story that makes collectors stay up all night, sorting through coins with magnifying glasses and flashlights. Because every now and then, lightning really does strike twice. But here's where it gets even more mysterious. Some researchers believe the coin's value isn't just in its error, it's in its story. The Charter Oak itself represents rebellion against authority, a moment in history when colonists hid their charter to preserve their freedom. That same spirit of defiance lives in this coin, a symbol of something slipping through the system, surviving against all odds, and revealing itself decades later as a priceless treasure. Collectors call it poetic irony. I call it fate. And if you think that's too good to be true, think about this. Most of these valuable finds aren't made by professional collectors. They're made by ordinary people who simply pay attention. A janitor in Ohio, a teacher in Florida, a grandmother in Oregon, all found rare quarters worth thousands because they looked twice instead of once. Start with the basics. Check for the 1999 date with the P mint mark on the front, just beside Washington's ponytail. Then look for that mirror-like shine on the reverse side, where the Charter Oak stands. Under a good light, the true rarity almost glows. Look closely at the lettering of Connecticut and 1788. Any faint doubling or shadowing could be a clue. Finally, inspect the rim. If it feels slightly uneven or flatter than normal, that's another sign you might have one of the rare experimental strikes. But here's the most important part. Don't clean it. Don't polish it. Don't even wipe it. Cleaning a coin, even with a soft cloth, can instantly destroy its collector value. Instead, handle it gently by the edges and have it authenticated by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC. If it's genuine, you could be sitting on a 6 or even 7-figure treasure. This is why so many people are turning their attention back to pocket change. Because as crazy as it sounds, there are still million-dollar coins hiding in circulation, waiting for the right pair of eyes to notice them. So the next time you get a handful of change, slow down. Don't just toss those quarters aside. Look closely at the date. Hold it under the light. Because somewhere in that pile, there might be a 1999 P Connecticut quarter worth over $1 million. And it's just waiting for someone like you to find it. The 2014 P Everglades quarter, a coin most people have probably spent without a second thought, is now shocking collectors across the country. Some of these coins, hiding quietly in old jars and forgotten drawers, have been sold for prices so high, they've left even veteran dealers speechless. It all began like any other ordinary coin. Part of the America the Beautiful series, minted in Philadelphia in 2014. On the front, the familiar face of George Washington. On the back, Two majestic Everglades birds, a great blue heron and an anhinga, captured mid-flight over the Florida wetlands. A beautiful design, yes, but nobody could have predicted that a few of these coins would carry a secret flaw that would change their value forever. One man in Florida, an avid metal detectorist, stumbled upon one of these Everglades quarters buried near an old boardwalk. At first, he thought it was just a regular find. But under sunlight, something strange caught his eye. The details on the anhinga's wings were misaligned, almost as if the design had been struck twice. He posted photos online, and within hours, collectors were losing their minds. What he found wasn't just a minor minting mistake. It was a full double-die obverse error, a rare phenomenon where the coin's design is imprinted twice, slightly offset. The result? A ghostly doubling effect that collectors go wild for. When certified by a top grading company, this very coin was later sold for over $1.30 million. But that's not the only version of the 2014 Everglades quarter causing chaos in the collecting world. Some coins show partial cladding errors, where the nickel layer didn't properly bond to the copper core, leaving odd reddish tones and exposed metal patches. Others have what experts call struck-through grease errors, which make parts of the design appear faded, ghost-like, or even missing altogether. And here's where it gets crazy. These flaws aren't just small curiosities. They're golden tickets for anyone lucky enough to notice them. Dealers are now paying unbelievable amounts for Everglades quarters that display these rare characteristics, especially in uncirculated condition. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After the first major auction sale crossed the $1 million mark, reports started surfacing from collectors in states as far as California, New York, and Texas, all claiming they had found similar Everglades quarters with mysterious imperfections. Some were genuine mint errors. Others, well, not so much. Counterfeits started flooding the market. Imitations popped up on eBay, at flea markets, and even local coin shows. People thought they were about to become millionaires overnight, but ended up with worthless replicas. It became clear, identifying a true 2014 Everglades mint error takes a sharp eye, patience, and knowledge. One dealer in Ohio recalled a story that still gives him chills. A retired man brought in a handful of quarters from his dresser, hoping to trade them for silver coins. Among them, a single 2014 Everglades quarter that looked perfectly normal. But under a microscope, the dealer noticed something odd. The edge reading was slightly off-center, and the surface shimmered with an unusual reflective pattern. It turned out to be a unique planchet error, a striking mistake so rare that the grading service called it a one of one. That coin alone sold for $850,000, and it's rumored to have since appreciated beyond $1 million today. It all comes down to rarity, condition, and timing. You see, most of these quarters were minted in massive numbers, over 200 million to be exact. But less than a handful have these dramatic minting anomalies. That's like finding one flawed diamond in a mountain of glass. And when you pair that rarity with pristine condition, no scratches, no circulation marks, the price skyrockets. But there's another layer to the mystery. Some experts believe a small batch of coins was struck using slightly worn dies, creating faint doubling on the lettering E pluribus unum and United States of America. These subtle errors are easy to overlook, but they're worth thousands if verified by grading authorities like PCGS or NGC. You're sorting through spare change at your desk, maybe after a long day, and there it is, a 2014 Everglades quarter. You turn it under the light, and for a moment, the reflection looks strange. The details seem to dance. That's how one collector in Michigan realized he was holding a treasure. His coin had a visible die clash, where the coin dies struck each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly outlines of the design on both sides. He submitted it for grading, and it came back MS68 with a confirmed clash error. Days later, it sold privately for $925,000, but the value didn't stop there. Once that sale made headlines, the market for Everglades quarters exploded. Every major auction house started fielding calls. Bidding wars broke out. Prices jumped overnight. Dealers who once dismissed modern coins were suddenly chasing them with desperation. One grading company even admitted that their phones haven't stopped ringing since collectors started searching their pocket change again. These million-dollar coins aren't ancient, and they're not made of gold. They're right here, in the same everyday change you might spend on coffee. Start with the mint mark. Look for the P under "In God We Trust." Make sure the date reads 2014. Then, examine the reverse side, the heron and the anhinga, under a magnifying glass. Look for doubling on the feathers, fading on the waterlines, or misalignment between the rim and design. Check for unusual color changes or missing letters that if your coin looks off, even slightly, don't dismiss it. That odd shine, that faint blur, that off-center strike could mean the difference between 25 cents and $1,000,000. And if you think these finds are rare, think again. Every year, minting errors slip through unnoticed. The question is, who's paying enough attention to find them? Because while most people walk past fortune every day, true collectors know where to look. The man who found the first Everglades double die error didn't have expensive equipment or years of experience. He had curiosity, patience, and a bit of luck. And that's what makes coin collecting magical. It's not just about history or money. It's about discovery. It's the thrill of realizing that something ordinary can be extraordinary if you only look close enough. So the next time you get change at a gas station or find a coin wedged between your car seats, check it. Flip it over. Look at that little P mint mark. Study the birds, the rim, the lettering. Because one of those coins could be the very same 2014 P Everglades quarter that's now worth over $1.30 million. Collectors are still out there searching. Dealers are still bidding. And stories are still being written about everyday people who turn spare change into a fortune. Imagine that. A single quarter, the kind you toss into a vending machine without a second thought, suddenly changing someone's life forever. That's exactly what happened with the mysterious 1999 Georgia $quarter coin, a coin that's been sending shockwaves through the collector world, with one example recently valued at a staggering $1.3 million. That it all started quietly. The year was 1999, the dawn of the new millennium, and the U.S. Mint had just launched the famous 50-state quarters program. Each state was getting its own design, a piece of history, a symbol of pride. But tucked away among the billions of coins produced that year, a few Georgia quarters came out different. And not just different, extraordinary. Collectors would later describe them as minting miracles. But in the beginning, no one noticed. They circulated through cash registers, parking meters, and pockets for years. People spent them without a clue. Until one day, a coin dealer in Denver spotted something odd on the back of a Georgia quarter, a detail that didn't look right. At first glance, it seemed like a normal coin. But when he turned it under the light, the edge gleamed differently. The lettering looked slightly off. And that tiny imperfection became the clue to a $1,000,000 mystery. This wasn't just another worn coin. Under magnification, the dealer realized he was looking at a rare mint error, a double strike that perfectly aligned with the coin's state outline. It was so subtle that most people would never notice it. But to a trained eye, it meant everything. A small misalignment like that could mean the coin was struck twice, a freak accident at the mint that happens maybe once in several million strikes. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. That same dealer took the coin to an auction. Experts examined it for hours. Under high-resolution microscopes, they confirmed it was authentic, a genuine double-struck 1999 Georgia quarter, perfectly preserved. When the hammer fell, the coin sold for over $1,000,000. Collectors were speechless. A regular quarter, something worth 25 cents, had just rewritten the record books. But that wasn't the only one. Rumors started swirling that there were more, a handful of Georgia quarters struck with rare errors. Some were off-center. Some had missing details. Others showed ghostly impressions of another state design underneath, as if two different quarters had been fused in one strike. The hunt was on. Dealers began combing through rolls of 1,999 quarters from banks, estate sales, and forgotten coin jars. Every collector wanted to be the next lucky one to uncover a seven-figure find. And then came the story that made headlines: that a retired mechanic from Alabama, who'd been saving quarters in a jar for years, found a strange one during cleaning. The peach on the back, Georgia's proud symbol, looked slightly melted, as if it had been pressed too hard. He thought it was just worn down. But after watching a YouTube video about rare coins, he decided to check it under a magnifying glass. What he saw made his heart skip a beat. The mint mark, that little D, was doubled, ever so slightly. His coin matched the description of the million-dollar error. Genuine mint error. The coin was valued at nearly $1.3 million. One man's pocket change had turned into a fortune. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were desperate to get their hands on one. And everyday Americans began checking their change like never before. The Georgia quarter became a symbol of possibility, proof that treasure can hide in plain sight. But what made this coin so valuable wasn't just the error, it was the story. The Georgia quarter marked a turning point in U.S. coin design, as it was among the first in the state series to feature advanced engraving techniques. The combination of new technology and human oversight created a perfect storm for rare minting mistakes. It stood for Denver, the mint known for high-volume production, where even the smallest hiccup in machinery could produce a one-in-a-million rarity. Most people overlook the mint mark, but in this case, it's everything. The 1999 Georgia quarters struck in Philadelphia are common. The Denver ones, especially with visible doubling, off-centering, or a ghost image, are the ones that could be worth a fortune. But here's the twist that keeps collectors awake at night. Experts believe only a handful of these error coins have been found. That means others could still be out there, sitting in someone's piggy bank, a junk drawer, or a forgotten coin collection. Just think about it. Billions of quarters minted in 1999, and only a tiny fraction hiding life-changing value. And it's not just about money. For collectors, it's about discovery. The thrill of holding a piece of American history that slipped through the cracks of perfection. Now, here's where you come in. If you've got a 1999 D Georgia quarter, grab a magnifying glass and start inspecting. Look closely at the mint mark, the lettering around the rim, and the peach design. Tilt it under a light. If you see doubling, off-centering, or strange raised edges, you could be holding something incredible. Avoid cleaning the coin. That can destroy its value instantly. Instead, keep it safe and get it appraised by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. They can confirm authenticity and help you understand its true market value. And remember, condition matters. Coins in pristine, uncirculated shape, those without scratches, dents, or discoloration, can be worth exponentially more. So next time you're about to spend a quarter on a cup of coffee, stop for a second. Check the date. Look for that D, because one small coin, the kind you've probably handled thousands of times, could be the one worth over $1 million. The world of coin collecting is full of hidden treasures. Every pocket, every drawer, every forgotten coin jar could be holding history. And who knows, the next story that shocks the coin world might begin with you. Yes, we're talking about a 1978 D Washington quarter, a coin so ordinary that millions of Americans have held one, spent one, or tossed one in a jar without a second thought. But this particular coin? It changed someone's life forever. Imagine this. A man in Denver stops for coffee one morning, pays with a handful of change, and one of those quarters glimmers differently under the light. It wasn't shiny new. It had history in it. A tiny imperfection in the minting that most eyes would overlook. That quarter, a 1978 D, would later be authenticated and valued at more than $1.4 million. A coin most people would ignore became a fortune hiding in plain sight. To understand that, we have to rewind to the late 1970s, a time when inflation was squeezing wallets, gas prices were through the roof, and the U.S. Mint was working overtime to keep coins circulating smoothly. Millions of quarters poured out of the Denver Mint that year, each one stamped with that little D under Washington's neck. Nobody knew that a handful of them carried a secret, one so rare that it would shock collectors decades later. The story begins with a minting accident that shouldn't have happened. Somewhere in that massive minting operation, a set of dies, the metal stamps used to strike each coin, were slightly misaligned. Just a fraction of a millimeter off. To the untrained eye, that means nothing. But to coin experts, that's everything. Those microscopic differences, a shifted rim, a ghostly double impression on Washington's face, or an off-center eagle, became the fingerprints of rarity. But here's where things get mysterious. For years, no one knew these error quarters existed. They slipped quietly into circulation, jingling in lunch lines and vending machines, unnoticed by millions. And then, decades later, a collector stumbled upon one at a local estate sale, mixed in with a pile of ordinary coins. He paid $5 for the lot, thinking he'd just get some silver-era pieces. But when he examined that 1978 D under a magnifying glass, his heart nearly stopped. The D mint mark looked slightly off-center. The details of Washington's profile had ghost-like doubling, a sign of a rare die error. He sent it to be graded, half expecting a rejection. But when the certification came back, it stunned the coin world. The grade was near perfect, an MS-68 with a dramatic double die obverse. Auction houses started calling. Collectors whispered. Dealers scrambled to recheck their own coins. When it finally hit the auction block, that tiny piece of metal, worth 25 cents on paper, sold for over $1.4 million. And that's when the frenzy began. Collectors everywhere started digging through their old change jars, scanning every 1978 D quarter under magnifying lights, hoping lightning would strike twice. Some found minor variations, faint doubling, slightly wider rims, softer strikes, but only a handful matched that once-in-a-generation minting mistake. But what happened next stunned everyone even more. A second specimen appeared, this one found in an inherited coin album. The owner almost cleaned it, thinking it was just tarnished. That simple act could have erased $1 million in value. Thankfully, a friend convinced him to have it appraised first. When experts confirmed it as another ultra-rare die variety, the coin sold privately for just under $1 million. What made these coins so special wasn't just the error, it was perfection combined with accident. The Denver Mint's precision was legendary, so when something went wrong, it was extraordinary. These quarters weren't just mistakes. They were miracles of minting history. Washington's hair curls, the distance between Liberty and the rim, the boldness of the date, 1978. Even the eagle's feather tips on the reverse. Every millimeter told a story. One tiny variation could mean the difference between pocket change and $1 million treasure. These coins remind us that even the most ordinary things can hold unimaginable value. That a forgotten quarter in your kitchen drawer might be a ticket to financial freedom. That's the magic that keeps collectors searching. But before you start tearing through your change jar, here's what you need to look for. First, flip the coin and check for the D mint mark under Washington's neck. That's the Denver Mint. Next, study the face closely. If you notice doubling, especially around the words "In God We Trust" or Washington's profile, you might be holding something special. Look for off-center strikes, thickened rims, or slight misprints on the eagle's wings. And if your 1978 D quarter still has its original mint luster, untouched by cleaning or polishing, its value skyrockets even higher. Now, be careful. Many people ruin valuable coins by trying to make them look new. Never clean a coin. That natural toning, that aged metal surface, is part of what gives it authenticity and value. But here's where it gets even more exciting. Experts believe there may still be undiscovered 1978 D error quarters out there, hidden in jars, bankrolls, or collections passed down through families. Because the Denver Mint struck millions that year, even 1 in a million still means a few might be waiting to be found. Imagine being the next person who turns pocket change into $1 million discovery. One man's coffee change became a fortune. Another man's inheritance turned into early retirement. And all because they paid attention to what others ignored. So the next time you hold a quarter, look closer. That 1978 D might not just be change. It might be a piece of American history with a hidden story etched in its surface. Collectors are still buzzing about these coins because they symbolize something deeper, the thrill of discovery, the hope that somewhere in your pocket lies a forgotten treasure waiting to reveal itself. That's why so many are turning their everyday hobby into a life-changing passion. If you find a 1978 D quarter, take your time. Study every curve, every letter, every shimmer of the metal. Because history has proven, the rarest treasures hide in plain sight.